He never thought they'd take it this far. But as Kody Brown appeared before the judge, with Christine, Janelle, and even Meri across from him, he realized this wasn't family drama anymore. This was war. And it was unfolding in court. It didn't happen overnight. For more than a decade, audiences observed Sister Wives to unfold as a slow-burning book, abounding in smiles, tense laughter, passive-aggressive stares, and the profound undertows of unspoken hurt. At its center stood Kody Brown, the man who once taught about plural marriage with radiance in his eyes and hope in his voice. But dreams, constructed on foundations of sand, shatter in silence before they fall with a thunder. And when the dust finally cleared, it was not merely hearts that were broken. It was trust, money, and the foundation of what the Browns had professed to believe in. It started with a figure, $75,000. The calm before the storm. Janelle Brown had always been the reliable one. Not boisterous, not defiant, just pragmatic, faithful, and quietly fierce. She kept her children, her home, and her position in Kody's crazy polygamous hierarchy in check. Christine, by contrast, long wore her heart on her sleeve. When she exited Kody publicly in 2021, viewers cheered her bravery, but few realized what else she had unearthed backstage. Months following her divorce, Christine was still financially connected to the family through the Brown Family LLC, the business entity set up to oversee joint assets, such as the notorious Coyote Pass land, money from the reality TV show, and residual funds from different appearances. Christine wasn't going to create more trouble. But everything changed when she obtained a financial breakdown that just didn't compute. A $75,000 expense line item listed as property maintenance and upgrades. But there had been no building, no fencing, no surveyors on the Coyote Pass property in more than a year. She phoned Janelle. And that's when the pieces started fitting together. Janelle's growing doubts. I knew something was amiss. Janelle later testified in court documents. My demands for information about the land were always dismissed. But I trusted Kody. I trusted Robyn. That was my error. Janelle, who was still technically spiritually married to Kody at the time, had been residing out of a trailer, holding out for promised development work to start on Coyote Pass. As she struggled through bitter Flagstaff winters with little heat and amenities, Robyn had settled into a near $900,000 luxury residence, furnished, gated, and immaculate. She initially wrote it off as favoritism. Kody was commuting entirely back and forth to Robyn's house, and people were gossiping that she was in control of the finances of the family more than anyone knew. Favoritism wouldn't account for what happened to that $75,000, however, particularly when it came from a pool that everyone had contributed to. Side by side, Christine and Janelle started going through emails, LLC records, bank transactions, and tax returns. What they discovered wasn't an honest mistake. It was a pattern. The pattern of exclusion to outsiders. The Browns espoused being together, but on paper, Christine and Janelle were being pushed aside, gradually but deliberately. Funds for repairs to Janelle's trailer were denied. Requests for reimbursement for kids' medical expenses were delayed. Meanwhile, Robyn's name appeared frequently on invoices for home upgrades, security systems, and childcare stipends. Christine had had enough. But Janelle, ever the cautious one, was still hesitant. She didn't want to drag the family into court, not after decades of shared life. And then came the call from Meri. Meri's breaking silence. Meri Brown had been in the shadows for so long, everyone thought she'd never find her voice. She was the first wife, the one who formally married Kody back in 1990, and the one who voluntarily relinquished her legal status so Kody could marry Robyn and bring her children into the family. She'd swallowed betrayal more times than she could count, from emotional abandonment to her infamous catfishing debacle. But she'd remained, until now. Meri's voice on the phone was calm, but firm. I've seen things I can't ignore anymore. I've watched them manipulate everything from how we're shown on TV to how the money moves. I'm done pretending. She let Janelle and Christine in on the secret that Kody and Robyn had commandeered all decision-making within the LLC. She had overheard Robyn telling the accountant not to worry about including the others in some financial considerations. And worst of all, she confirmed that the $75,000 transfer was talked about only between Robyn and Kody, as a long-term investment. An investment that the other wives had all refused to accept. That was the last straw. From betrayal to battle with Christine, Janelle, and now Meri on board, they consulted lawyers. They weren't merely interested in getting their money back. They wanted accountability. The lawsuit, filed quietly in Flagstaff Courthouse, charged Kody and Robyn with misappropriation of joint marital funds, breach of oral and spiritual agreements, failure to uphold contractual obligations within the family LLC, emotional distress and exclusion from communal property decisions. When the media got wind of it, headlines blew up. Sister Wives Civil War. Kody Brown sued by three wives over $75K financial bombshell. Kody was shocked. Robyn was heartbroken. TLC kept quiet. But Christine and Janelle, they were only just beginning. The courtroom becomes the new arena with court proceedings underway. Cameras were banned, but that didn't prevent tension from seeping into the public. Christine walked in head held high. Janelle had a binder full of papers clutched in her hands. Meri had dark glasses on, and a silent, uninterpretable look on her face. Kody walked alone on the first day. Robyn accompanied him the following day, bracing his arm, clearly upset. But no tears would ever be able to alter the fact that they were now defending themselves not only from the public, but from the very women they used to call family. The initial round of hearings established the tone. This was not a publicity stunt. This was serious. The judge ordered a full financial probe, permitting the plaintiffs to review formerly off-limits LLC records and family bank statements. Robyn's attorney claimed it was a family misunderstanding, not a legal disagreement. But Christine's attorney shot back. This has nothing to do with marriage. This is about money, deception, and the intentional economic exclusion of three women who assisted in creating a reality television empire, and were shunted aside like background players on their own series. The verdict of the heart. Even before the case came to a close, the verdict of the heart had already been handed down in the eyes of the fans and erstwhile followers. Christine found her strength. Janelle found her courage. And Meri finally found her voice. As for Kody, he was left with Robyn, and a courtroom full of reminders of promises made and broken, money misspent, and women he never thought he'd lose. But they did, and they sued him. The courtroom was solemn. No cameras, no flashbulbs, just the stark chill of a family ripped asunder, this time, not by feelings but by facts. And at the forefront of it all stood Christine Brown, no longer simply a reality show former wife, but now a woman demanding justice. She breathed, ironed the crease at the edge of her blouse, and stepped forward. On the other side of the room, Kody Brown sat rigid in his chair, his jaw set. Robyn shifted uncomfortably beside him, her hand clenching a tissue. The judge nodded to Christine, and with that she started. I stayed quiet for too long. Christine's tone was serene, but every word was supported by decades of emotional baggage. I got married into this family when I was 21, she said. I thought we were doing what we were doing for a reason. A spiritual unified home based on faith and love. I had 6 children. I cooked for 3 families. I homeschooled. I gave up. And for many years I felt my sacrifices counted. She stopped and stared straight at Kody. He wouldn't look at her, fidgeting instead. But somewhere along the line, I became an accessory to another person's spotlight. When I requested assistance, for something as vital as my daughter's operation, I was informed that we could not afford it. The family account is tight, they informed me. She then raised a paper. But a few weeks afterward, Robyn was closing on a new house, already furnished, complete with private security system and upgrades in luxury. How is that just? The courtroom was quiet, but you could sense the crowd fidgeting in their seats. Even the judge sat forward a little. Evidence, the texts. The silence, the gaslighting. Christine went on, now producing copies of text message screenshots, exhibits entered into the court record. Exhibit A, her lawyer shouted, is a message Christine sent to Kody on April 6, asking permission for partial payment from the joint account for Isabel's surgery. Christine read from it. Hey Kody, I know money's tight, but Isabel's surgery can't be put off. The scoliosis has gotten worse. Can we use part of the family fund? Kody's response. Also produced to the court. I will need to speak to Robyn. The account is tight at the moment. Perhaps investigate a payment plan. Gasps rocked the courtroom. Not at the request, but the gatekeeping. Christine had contributed to that account. She had raised kids while others lounged in comfort. And now she was asked to ask permission. From Robyn? Another message came just weeks later. Robyn and I have been discussing this. We've got to focus on stability for the kids. The new house will assist with that. Christine's expression didn't shift. She'd practiced this moment internally 1,000 times. But the public airing of that offhand dismissal still hurt. That was my daughter, Christine said, her voice cracking slightly. Her pain was real. Her needs were urgent. But I was told to wait, because someone else's stability counted more. The emotional burden of being the other wife. Christine wasn't at the hospital for the money. She was there because the emotional abandonment had reached a breaking point. She remembered birthdays Kody had missed, family gatherings when her voice had not been heard, her children questioning why Dad was at Robyn's home every night, why they did not receive school clothes. Yet Robyn's children had personal tutors. Being in a plural family meant we all sacrificed, she said. But in the end, I was the only one sacrificing. And when I finally got up and said, I'm done, Kody didn't fight me. He didn't ask me if I were all right. He just let me go. She turned toward the judge. Which is why I'm not here today as a wife. I'm here as a woman who gave everything and was left with nothing but betrayal and unpaid bills. Christine's attorney presents financial records. Next, Christine's legal team presented a breakdown of the joint account. Contributions from all wives over the years, estimated to total over $1.2 million in pooled funds from TV contracts, sponsorships, and book royalties. Every wife gave according to income and household expense. But then, after 2016, Christine's access to the account started dwindling, as Robyn's individual withdrawals started rising. The strongest incriminating document? A $38,000 withdrawal marked home adjustment granted in 24 hours. Christine had waited 6 weeks for approval of a $4,000 request. Her attorney highlighted this. So it's obvious. Ms. Brown's contributions were accepted, but her needs were deprioritized. That's not a family. That's financial favoritism. Kody's reaction, stunned and silent as Christine uncovered their family's dirty secrets. Kody remained silent, his trademark bravado replaced with quiet fury. He had always been charming, evasive, proud. But here, in court, with facts and papers presented to a judge, there was no avoiding it. He folded his arms, muttered to his attorney, and eventually raised his head. But not at Christine, at the judge. His expression conveyed what his words could not. This is spiraling out of control. Robyn's subtle tears. Real or strategy? As Christine spoke, Robyn quietly swiped away tears, her eyes appearing as if every sentence cut close to home. But Christine never looked at her. I'm not here to battle with Robyn, she explained. I'm here because Kody gave her authority over my life, over my children, over my access to resources I helped build. She addressed the judge head-on. I might have left the marriage, but I won't leave justice behind. The courtroom responds. The judge ordered a brief recess, following Christine's testimony. Journalists in the waiting area scrambled for quotes. Despite the case having prohibited video recording, transcripts were permitted. And by nightfall, quotes from Christine's testimony swarmed social media. I held my tongue for too long. My daughter's suffering was dismissed. I walked away from marriage, not justice. Christine had become not only a symbol of a plural marriage that had not worked, but of a woman discovering her own strength after years of being silenced. Fans and devotees swamped forums and Twitter X with their congratulations. Christine is the hero we never realized we needed. That courtroom just heard the true reality behind sister wives. Gaslighting, manipulation, and financial emotional abuse. She's calling it out. As the gavel struck again. When the courtroom session resumed, Christine left. She did not glance back. She went back to her chair next to Janelle and Meri, who both took her hand. No more sister wives. Just sisters. bound together in another type of family now. A family of survivors. Kody sat rigid. Robyn's makeup had streamed. And the court hadn't even gotten to Janelle's testimony yet. The air changed the moment Janelle Brown walked into the courtroom. Gone was the demure woman on TV, the head-down wife who held the family together through its most turbulent seasons. Today she was different, seething, intense, and armed to the teeth. No tissue clutched in hand. No shaking voice. Only a fat binder full of cold, hard evidence. A decade of trust, destroyed in one transaction. As Janelle walked to the witness stand, the judge glanced over her prepared stack of documents with raised eyebrows. "I understand you've brought financial evidence today," the judge said. "Yes, Your Honor," Janelle replied firmly. "Because this isn't about rumors or reality TV drama. It's about truth, trust, and betrayal." The courtroom, still reeling from Christine's emotional testimony, now braced itself for numbers, and numbers don't lie. Janelle started with the history of the family fund, which was created under the Brown Family LLC some 10 years ago. It was set up to contain all the income that is shared, TLC payments, book royalties, cameo transactions, and even real estate deals. All wives had contributed, and all were supposed to gain. "Me and my friends called it the pot," Janelle said. "Kody referred to it as our future. We all agreed that every dollar would go toward building homes for all of us on Coyote Pass. But somewhere along the way, Robyn was the only one who had access. And the rest of us? We were invisible." Exhibit A, the LLC agreement, signed by all. Janelle's lawyer showed them Exhibit A, the signed 2013 original LLC agreement. Every signature, Kody, Janelle, Christine, Meri, and even Robyn, was legible and unmistakable. The contract specified equal voting for adults, shared approval needed for withdrawals of over $10,000, joint ownership of land, unless renegotiated with complete agreement. Then there was the update, a 2022 version, signed by only Kody and Robyn. "I never saw that one," said Janelle. "Neither did Christine. And Meri said she didn't either. So how did Robyn's name end up the only co-owner with Kody on Coyote Pass?" The smoking gun, $75,000, transferred to Robyn's private account. The courtroom gasped as Exhibit B was disclosed. It was a paper printout from the family LLC account, dated precisely 2 weeks prior to Robyn purchasing her $900,000 Flagstaff property. Line item transfer to Robyn Brown. Flagstaff Property Trust amount, $75,483.62 note. Home upgrade advance. "This money came from our joint account," Janelle informed the judge. "None of us approved it. None of us were told about it. And it wasn't a loan." Kody's attorney cut in. "Objection, subjective interpretation." But Janelle didn't blink. "Then let me explain. I didn't consent. Christine didn't consent. Meri didn't consent. So unless Robyn okayed it herself behind closed doors with Kody, it was misused." Kody's excuses fall flat. As the judge browsed the paperwork, Kody squirmed uncomfortably. He leaned in to whisper something to Robyn, who covered her face with her hands. The judge then turned to him. "Mr. Brown, did you ask for this transfer with the agreement of all members of LLC?" Kody coughed. "I thought I had the right to handle the money in the best interests of the family. And yet 3 of the 4 wives tell you they had no knowledge of this transaction. They weren't on the same page then. It was a crazy time." Christine, sitting in back of Janelle, shook her head. Janelle continued calmly. "No, Your Honor. It was confusing. Because he made it confusing. He employed silence and evasion in order to force through what he desired. History of overlooked requests." To drive home the trend of exclusion, Janelle showed Exhibit C, a chain of returned emails and rejected requests spanning 4 years. One email indicated her requesting $2,000 to pay for RV repairs, declined due to budget constraints. Another showed a request to survey her parcel on Coyote Pass, not a current priority. Meanwhile, receipts from Robyn's home showed new fencing, landscaping, and a custom playroom renovation, all paid out from the shared fund. It was always the same excuse, Janelle said.
We're tight on funds. Let's wait. Maybe next month. But Robyn never had to wait. Meri's support adds weight. Meri, sitting quietly in the gallery, was suddenly recalled to verify something that Janelle alleged. Meri, Janelle asked, "Do you recall Robyn's text regarding the financial change?" Meri nodded. She said, "Kody and I are taking care of the money now. It's just easier this way." That's when I realized something had changed. With Meri's testimony brought into the official record, the eyes of the judge narrowed a fraction. "You're telling me the LLC was in practice managed solely by Mr. Brown and Miss Robyn Brown, despite written agreements stating otherwise?" "Yes, Your Honor," Janelle replied. The judge's turning point. After hearing hours of emotionally compelling and data-backed testimony, the judge finally spoke.
This court sees a recurring theme of financial opacity. One party appears to have taken control over communal assets, while excluding other members who were contractually entitled to transparency. Kody visibly winced. Further investigation into financial misconduct will proceed, the judge declared, pending full audit and discovery. Public reaction, Team Janelle emerges. Though court cameras weren't allowed, transcripts of Janelle's testimony hit the internet within hours. And just like Christine, she was hailed a warrior for truth. Comments across platforms exploded. Janelle came with the receipts. Literal receipts. Smart, calm, powerful. That's the Janelle we've always underestimated. While Kody was playing husband of the year with Robyn, Janelle was observing. Now she's getting revenge. Kody's meltdown behind closed doors, sources later told us that Kody stormed out of the courtroom yelling at his lawyer. "He never assumed they'd go after him like this," said the source. "He assumed they'd move on. But now, he's the one trapped." Meanwhile, back at Robyn's residence, tensions escalated. She cried allegedly through the entire night. "They don't get it," she spoke in a soft whisper to Kody. "We didn't do it intentionally. We were only trying to create our life." But it was too late. The other wives weren't merely fighting for what they had lost. They were fighting for responsibility. Janelle's last words, a warning and a promise before resigning. Janelle addressed the judge once more. "This lawsuit is not about $75,000. It's about a pattern of dishonesty. We invested our lives into this family. We believed in equality. But instead we were shut out, disregarded, and betrayed." Then she fixed Kody, unblinking. "You taught us to fight for family. Now we're fighting for ourselves." When the court clerk called her name, the room grew tense. Few expected Meri Brown to take the stand. Fewer still expected her to say anything that could change the case. She'd been the faithful pet for years. The first wife, the one who suffered heartache, isolation, and humiliation without ever actually leaving. While Christine departed and Janelle set boundaries, Meri remained. Even when Kody formally divorced her, so that he could wed Robyn. Even when he publicly rejected their union. But not today. Meri wasn't here to rescue Kody today. She was here to rescue herself, and voice all the moments she had swallowed in silence. A quiet storm breaks. Loose Meri strolled haltingly to the witness stand. She stood tall, chin held high, voice firm, but there was a storm behind her eyes. "I used to think that loyalty meant staying no matter what," she began, her voice echoing in the courtroom. "But I've come to realize that real loyalty isn't about protecting someone's lies. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it hurts." She paused, taking a breath. "I stood by Kody when he added a new wife. I gave up my legal marriage so that he could adopt Robyn's kids. I stood up for him to the cameras, to the world, even to myself." Her voice fell into a deeper register. "But I can't do that anymore." Years of being erased, Meri started to explain how she gradually became invisible within the Brown family. "There were holidays where I was alone. Family vacations I didn't even know about. My texts went unreturned. My birthday was forgotten. Kody actually told me at one point, 'You're lucky I haven't asked you to leave.' And I thought I needed to prove myself." She gazed out into the courtroom. "That's how far I'd fallen. I didn't feel like I was worthy of respect unless I'd put up with being disrespected." The betrayal she couldn't ignore. But it was more than emotional neglect that brought Meri here. It was the ** moment when she realized Kody and Robyn had actually excluded the other wives on purpose. Not just from love, but from ownership and power. I had already begun to drift emotionally. But the ultimate blow came one summer evening last year, she said. And then she delivered the bombshell. I was at Robyn's house. I had stopped by early to leave some items for a family dinner. Kody had no idea I was there. I listened in on him in the study. On the phone, he told me, and I'll quote, "Don't worry, it will all be yours. The land, the house, everything. The other ones are just noise." The courtroom gasped in unison. Christine's eyes went wide. Janelle leaned forward. Even the judge paused for a split second. For the first time throughout the trial, Kody was shocked. Kody's denial falls flat. Kody leapt up and whispered to his attorney. The defense immediately objected to Meri's remark as hearsay, but the judge overruled, citing its relevance to the pattern of exclusion and intent. Kody's lawyer requested cross-examination. "Mrs. Brown, are you sure you heard those words clearly?" Meri didn't flinch. "I remember every syllable. Could it have been out of context?" Meri furrowed her brow. "Context is irrelevant when you refer to your other wives as noise. That was not a budgetary choice. That was an announcement. Kody never viewed us as equals. He only viewed Robyn as permanent." The shift in Meri's allegiance. The courtroom heard as Meri explained how the financial favoritism became increasingly apparent over time. Kody would say, "This family is one body with many hearts." But when it came to making decisions, money, assets, even legal papers, he quit talking to anyone except Robyn. He said one time, "It's less drama this way." "But silence isn't peace," she went on. "It's manipulation." She disclosed that Robyn was given power to oversee some of the business activities, such as merchandise, social media revenue, and fan events, never having to share profits or with the other wives. There were side deals, sponsorships, events. Christine and I were asked to attend, but we were never told where the money went. The tipping point. Meri's frozen funds. Meri also produced paperwork indicating that a $12,000 check, her portion of a TLC promotional event, had been diverted into a business account owned by Kody and Robyn. When I inquired, Robyn explained it had been absorbed into the family fund, but I never received a dime. That's when I understood I wasn't merely being forgotten. I was being erased. A new kind of family. Meri's tone softened as she gazed at Christine and Janelle. "I have spent years believing they were the ones tearing the family down, but now I understand. They were the ones who were holding it together." Kody ceased being a husband to any of us long ago. Robyn was his sole focus. And the rest of us, we were merely background noise in the life he actually desired. Christine brushed away a tear. Janelle nodded softly, and the gallery audience, that included many who used to be fans of the program, were now seeing an out-and-out rebellion against the patriarch they had once respected. "The judge speaks." The judge leaned forward, visibly shaken. "Mrs. Brown, do you think you were deliberately excluded from making money decisions?" "Yes," said Meri. "And was it formally discussed with you?" "Never. It was done behind closed doors, hidden behind smiles and "we're all in this together" mantras." The judge made a note. "Your testimony will remain on record and may influence future rulings regarding financial restitution." Kody's expression. Shattered ego. For the first time in the entire trial, Kody Brown sat silently, arms crossed, mouth shut, eyes locked on the floor. The charisma, the control, the television smile, all gone. He never imagined this. Not Meri, not the wife who remained after all this. But she had remained not because she held faith in him, but because she had held faith in something greater. A family that no longer was. After the gavel, the crowd responds. When Meri departed the witness stand, she refused to turn back. She approached Janelle and Christine, embracing them both with her arms for the first time in years. Online, the response burst forth. "Meri's finally free. That quote needs to be on a t-shirt. The rest of them are just noise." Kody's downfall in one line. This trial is no longer just about money. It's about decades of abuse being exposed. Even former Sister Wives fans who had criticized Meri for being weak began to rally behind her newfound courage. Meri's last words. Quiet, but piercing. As the day's session concluded, journalists cornered Meri outside the courthouse. She was serene, composed. When asked why she finally spoke up, she replied succinctly, The room fell silent, charged with tension. You could have heard a pin drop when the last gavel hit the bench, its resonance holding more than the ring of courtroom protocol. It held the heavy weight of decades, of shattered promises, of silenced voices, of relatives turned foes. Judge Emily Rech slowly took off her glasses, folding them with careful deliberation before setting them aside. She looked around the courtroom, not as a legal figure, but as a woman, as one who could sense the emotional devastation sitting between the wooden benches. Facing them were Christine, Janelle, and Meri Brown, tense but poised. They had wrestled for this, not merely a legal win, but for acceptance, for recognition that their suffering, their loss, their silence counted. Across from them sat Kody Brown, slumped shoulders, pursed lips. Robyn sat to his left, shaken, her eyes red and puffy from hours of crying. Then the judge ruled. The judge's ruling, a reckoning long overdue. Upon thorough reading of the documents, listening to the witnesses, and balancing the proof submitted by all parties, Judge Rech started. This court finds that the plaintiffs, Miss Christine Brown, Miss Janelle Brown, and Miss Meri Brown, have established credible and supported claims of financial mismanagement, exclusion from contracting decisions, and violation of verbal and fiduciary agreements within the Brown family. She stopped, allowing the words to linger. It wasn't legalese alone. It was a judgment against a man who had proclaimed himself a unifier, a spiritual leader, a family man. The judge went on. There seems to be a pattern of steady exclusion of these plaintiffs from financial decision-making, access to community resources and ownership document changes, all done without full knowledge, consent, or participation. Robyn turned her head away. Kody's jaw flexed. He locked his fists in his lap. Thus the judge went on. This court directs the following immediate and temporary measures. A complete independent audit of the Brown Family LLC to be completed within the next 60 days. A freeze on all assets pertaining to the Coyote Pass property, including sale, transfer, or development. A formal legal examination of property titles and changes made in the last 5 years. And lastly, subject to the findings of the audit, consideration of restitution to the plaintiffs proportionate to their inputs and unjustified losses. The room didn't burst. There were no applause, no gasps, just silence. Silence like that which comes when justice doesn't taste like victory, but like the end of something holy. Christine, Janelle, and Meri. Justice earned, not given. Christine's shoulders slumped as if she'd placed the weightiest burden she'd been toting for decades. Janelle nodded silently to her lawyer. Meri, standing motionless next to them, fixed her gaze ahead, not with revenge, but with transparency. This was not about revenge. It was about truth. And at last, it was spoken, not merely in living rooms and on TV, but in a courtroom. For years they had been told to be patient, that healing takes time, that families have conflict. But this wasn't conflict. This was financial betrayal wrapped in emotional manipulation. Now the world had seen it. In transcripts, in rulings, in Meri's testimony, in Christine's fire, and in Janelle's precision. Kody's fall. From patriarch to defendant, Kody said nothing. Not one word. He did not protest. He did not walk out. He simply sat there, the man who once ruled cameras, wives, and children with an equal ferocity, utterly silent. His gaze shifted between the women, his ex-wives, all now tied not by marriage, but by legal bond, not his loves, his plaintiffs. Robyn leaned forward to whisper something, but he didn't react. His kingdom, constructed on the promise of harmony, was in shambles at his feet. And worse than losing them, he had lost their respect. Robyn, the last wife standing and sinking. Robyn wouldn't stop crying. Whether from guilt, fear, or the downfall of her reputation, no one could say. Her name had been in nearly every exhibit presented in court. Her bank account was tied to the missing $75,000. Her name was listed on the revised LLC documents that excluded the other wives. And while Kody took the heat in the courtroom, it was clear that Robyn was not an innocent bystander. She had signed, she had spent, she had allowed it all to happen. Now, outside in the corridor, journalists pushed forward their microphones. Did you knowingly accept stolen money, Robyn? Will you pay back the $75,000? Was this an inside job to gain Kody's complete financial allegiance? She remained silent. Her silence was answer enough. Outside the courtroom, a new chapter begins. As the judge closed the hearing,
Christine leaned over and clamped Janelle into a tight hug. Theirs was a friendship born of shared suffering, and now it seemed more solid than ever. Meri walked with them, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like the outsider. Reporters mobbed, but the three women walked as one, pushing aside the questions and flashes of light. Christine, will you address the media? Janelle, is this the death of the Brown family? Meri, do you regret it took so long to leave? They continued to walk, not because they didn't know, but because for once, they didn't owe anyone an explanation. A final look and a closing door as Christine reached the courthouse steps. She looked back once. Behind her, through the glass doors, Kody remained there, standing motionless, looking at her. No words were spoken, but that last look spoke volumes. You had every opportunity to do this right, but you chose control over connection. And now, you've lost everything. Christine didn't give them time to react. She descended the stairs toward freedom. What comes next? The judge's decision wasn't final, but it was the start of something new. The audit would press on. Property titles would be inspected. Additional hearings were on the calendar. But the emotional verdict was unmistakable. Christine, Janelle, and Meri had been correct. Kody and Robyn had misused the framework they established, and the world had seen it all come crashing down, not with trumpets, but with a last resounding gavel. Fans filled Reddit forums with accolades. They deserved this victory. Christine stood up. Janelle presented the facts. Meri found her voice at last. Former Kody Brown fans turned. He played family man while playing favorites. This was never about faith. It was about power. And so, with the sound of one final gavel, the Brown family saga shifted from the screen to the courtroom. A story once sold as a symbol of unity was now a cautionary tale of what happens when love is replaced by control, and silence is mistaken for peace. Christine, Janelle, Meri, their stories aren't over, but their silence is. Because staying silent was killing me more than walking away ever could.